So I'm looking forward to hearing from the panelists and the speakers tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Shapiro. Thank you, Mayor Weintraub, for your support, your ongoing support throughout the years in making the Calabasas community a safer place to live. We value our partnership with Epic, and that's why Brian's on here as a panelist. We're going to talk a little bit later about Firewise communities. So first, I'd like to introduce our distinguished panelists tonight. First, we have Assistant Fire Chief Drew Smith of the Los Angeles County Fire Department, who's going to talk about the wildland fire season. Next, we have Hattie Hammond from the LA County Fire Department Forestry Division, who will talk a little bit about Firewise. And Brian or myself can chime in with any other comments as necessary. And finally, Debbie Larson, our Public Safety Coordinator, is going to discuss our reorganized CERT team and our need to get more CERT members on our team to make our Calabasas community a safer place to live. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Smith, who will give us an overview of the season and his thoughts. Chief Smith.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. And I appreciate everybody who's joining us for this preparedness webinar. It's highly important, and we want to encourage the community's preparedness. And with good preparedness, we could have a good end result when we're faced with an emergency. Also, with this preparedness, we're going to talk about quite a few things, and I'm going to also share this responsibility with Megan Courier, who's our community service liaison, who her and I, as the team out of the Division 7 office, will guide you through and with some great information. So let us get the PowerPoint set up here, and we will get up and running. Great. So every year, your Los Angeles County Fire Department looks and prepares continually for how we prepare in the event of a wildland fire. And it's all inclusive in Los Angeles County, but also your Los Angeles County helps at the state level and national level with subject matter expertise for preparedness and best practice in the event of a wildland fire. But for tonight, we're going to focus on the city of Calabasas. So my job is I'm your assistant fire chief, so I run the division. So all the fire stations within the Santa Monica Mountains within Los Angeles County direct protection agreement areas is under the command of myself. So your neighborhood fire stations, you have 2 fire stations. However, you have a total of 13 that service the area that we have one large organization, so we're able to move and mobilize resources throughout the area pretty easy. But your 2 hometown fire stations is Fire Station 68 and Fire Station 125. So looking at the predictive services fall and winter outlook, and this is something that we are once again participants in at a local, state, and national level. So with this outlook, we know as we get into our seasonal risk, as Chief Dyer had mentioned, we do have how our Santa Ana winds promote the largest fires across our landscape. So we have a high potential for above normal large fires in September through November in the area, and those are shaded in red, as you can see. And we have a chance of normal to large fires across the South Coast for December due to likely drier than normal rain for this season. And that's contributed to us transitioning out of an El Nino and into a La Nina, which is going to what is projected to have a delay in our annual rainfall when we start getting our rain this season. So with that comes that abnormally dry following this wet winter in the spring. And so with this, we have larger total of fuel load than normal due to the last 2 years of 200% of normal rainfall in the area. So with that accumulation of the grass that you see, the very large and robust fuels that we have out there that haven't seen fire frequency in some time, contributes to the probability of larger fire growth as we transition into our fall seasons this year. So the thresholds for a high risk day is you see these Smoky Bear signs as you travel through the Santa Monica Mountains or a lot of places in California across the country. And this is a fire danger rating, so we can look at what is a high risk day. And with our robust fire danger complexity analysis that we do every day, we know when we hit those thresholds. And that's when we look at our live fuel moistures that are less than 75, our dead fuel moistures, which are less than 7. And those dead fuel moistures are those dead organic material that's on in throughout the wildland area that is receiving and giving off moisture. And as we know with Santa Ana winds, that water weight significantly gets dried out, and that can happen in the course of an hour and throughout the day. So as those dry up, the probability of a small ignition can promote an initial attack fire that goes to extended attack. And we all know that when we have those significant wind speeds, and we really focus those, and why 35 miles an hour, is we know when we get wind speeds at 35 miles an hour or greater, they have a significant rate of spread, significant spotting distance, and a receptive fuel bed ahead of a fire front. So that promulgates our largest fires in the fall months, as we've seen with 100 years worth of fire history and how much fires burn throughout the landscape in the Santa Monica Mountains. And this burning index that's listed is basically a fire danger rating complexity analysis that we look at current climatology or weather. We look at past fire history as compared to the predicted fire potential that gives us a numerical value, so we can look at past weather, past fires, and know when we have those indices that come to a certain value, we know when we hit the mark that we have the high probability of large fire growth. So for the fall and winter 2024, what we look at for a high risk day, we know when red flags are issued, and those red flags are the combination of high winds and dry weather. Sometimes air temperature doesn't play as significant role as it does, but high winds and dry air mass does. So those large scale winds are routinely forecasted, as we know, in the fall and the winter, and that's when our fire growth is really enhanced by those flying embers spotting ahead of an advancing fire front. And those embers can travel miles. And when I say miles, they can travel from 1 to 3 miles ahead of that fire front into a receptive fuel bed that are focused with that same weather, which is a dry fuel bed. So it's very receptive. You don't need a high source of energy or heat to get the new vegetation that's not even impacted by a line of fire or the advancing fire front. And that's what we call spotting. And that's the combination of those winds and low fuel moistures that produce that aggressive fire behavior on those high risk days. And that advancing fire front has that significant spotting that is in the Santa Monica Mountains through those historic fire corridors. So past fire history has told us through October to December, we do have significant potential of 10,000 acres or greater. And that really is promulgated when we don't have rainfall. So we look at when we get into our rainfall months, we really need 2 inches of or more of rainfall, because what that does is that promulgates new growth in those grass that becomes green, and that significantly dampens that the receptiveness of those fuels because it is significantly wet. So as we know that we live in this area, we know how green it is in the months of February, March, April, May, and June. But as Mother Nature turns off the sprinkler system through seasonal drought, everything turns very brown and dry and is receptive. And then as we transition into December, January, February again, we know that we get that green up in those annual fuels, the grasses, if you will. And that's really what's really dampens the fire potential unless we have a abnormal or an anomaly on those off-shoulder months. And those off-shoulder months for the Santa Monica Mountains would be anything outside of July to December. So as we look at how do we, with all this intelligence that we have, all the media platforms, the news, the information is out there to when we have a high risk day. But what are we as residents and public safety doing to prepare? And one of our campaigns, as you know, which is valid, is the Ready, Set, Go campaign. So with the Ready, Set, Go campaign, we look at how are we ready? Are we ready because we have a family plan? We know that we have our affairs in order with us navigating our lives. Are we planning ahead in the event of a fire? But one of those that we live in at our homes every day, are we doing our defensible space that lasts year round? And are we doing those good home hardening that can significantly reduce the chances of your home catching fire with those ember resistant qualities in the defensible space, coupling it with hardening your home against those embers in your house. So looking at our defensible space program, there is a lot of great information on what we look for and what defensible space looks like. The information is available. Epic is going and doing a phenomenal job in being a force multiplier on what that defensible space in the home hardening looks like. And that defensible space is available on our website. You can look at Epic and what they have available to guide you and have a roadmap of what right looks like around your home. So when we look on home hardening, houses don't really get involved by an advancing fire front. It's done by those ignition vulnerabilities that's listed, and that's where you have an accumulation of some type of receptiveness, whether it be leaf litter, stuff in your roofs, on your gutters, dead trees that have fallen, and that ember cast. We're talking around your home with your wicker patio furniture, your floaty noodles that you use in your pool. All that can be a receptive element for these embers that you would on a normal day not even think about. But on those high risk days with that transportation of those embers that can go 1 to 3 miles and then end up and around next to your home is when we see most of the home loss isn't from an advancing fire front. It's from the ember cast that gets in something that's receptive around your home. So the more proactive that we all can be with a home hardening and defensible space, this will significantly improve the chance of your home surviving in a wildfire. Plus, when we're in a structure defense component with our engine companies, we put your firefighters in very dangerous situations. And with that being said, the more aid that you can give us to make your home truly savable, that really aids in our tactical decision making on where we're able to put our engine companies and your firefighters to do that structure defense mission. So on the set component, we've talked about ready, now set is how prepared are you and your family? Have you thought ahead of what you're going to do in the event of a wildfire? And when we have an evacuation component, whether it be a shelter in place, whether it be an order or a warning, all that is based upon time, and that is the set component. How prepared are you in the event of an evacuation need? How set are you to have your family affairs in order, that you are prepared ahead of the event, because it all revolves around time for you to safely get out of an area and not wait to the last minute. So your family emergency plan, there's a lot of basics in here. Know the threats in your area, meaning the road systems. Know, do you have a meeting place if you're separated with your family, with these families, as we all live in, where one of your family members is off to work in another places. You might have children that are at school in another place. And how do you have this out of the area place that you have a family unification point and identifying that? Do you have an out-of-state contact? Do you know your evacuation route? And on evacuation routes, they change continuously. There's never one set evacuation route. And the why behind that is because it depends on where the fire starts and where it's spreading. So we have to be very flexible and very coordinated with our law partners, Caltrans, CHP, for an evacuation need, that we can do a traffic flow pattern that we can get people out of an area. And so those routes are going to be fluctuating over the course of time. So be prepared for that. So the route you may think you take home every day may not be the case because of the fire path. So know what your emergency plan is. If you work in a wildland area, what is your emergency plan for where you work, or their schools, or any of the care centers? What is their plan in the event of that emergency? So also looking at the safe spots to take cover, meaning that if we're in a shelter in place, your home, which may be the safest spot for you to be, rather than you to have to navigate the road systems with your family with no time, and have a significant vulnerability on a dark, smoky road with limited visibility, can be very challenging. Emergency supply kits, this is thinking ahead. You can be displaced because of infrastructure, the fire emergency itself, for quite a while. And we know that it is an inconvenience. So we would like people to have these go bags, or go kits, if you will, that you can have some resiliency for you and your family, so you could be outside of the area that you know. There will be shelters that are set up, but that comes with time when we have to do major evacuations. So please think about these things on your emergency supply kit. Talking about your medications, do you have a radio with batteries? Of course, anything that you need to navigate your life with any cash, or now you can do anything. So don't forget your phone, because you can Apple Pay everything now. So who uses cash anymore, right? So make sure that you have those supplies available for you. Any tools. And one thing also is have some comfortable clothes. Suggestion, if you work in not so comfortable shoes, are please, I hate to have you to be in an uncomfortable position with your footwear. So don't want to wear those heels around when you can put some shoes on. And so also your any stuff you need for your personal hygiene and supplies would be highly beneficial. And once again, medications, medications, medications. Here. So on our high risk days, it should not be any surprise when we have a high fire danger day, because of the messaging that goes out. We know that we handed out these NOAA weather radios. There's broadcasted that we get the messaging out with our weather service partners to the media. So we know that the information is there. So please be prepared. And we usually have routinely up to 72 hours plus to know that we're going to enter into a high fire danger day. So please pay attention, take it serious, and be prepared. One other thing on the messaging, our partners within the Santa Monica Mountains and here for the city of Calabasas is a unified messaging. So we, through the fire department, with all the intelligence we have, we push that out to the cities. So the city of Calabasas is very good about hosting a lot of the great information that we're doing. So the level of information is out there. And one thing that I have on information, all the information is completely useless unless you know how to make it useful. You need to make it useful. So as far as the go component, and this is the evacuation component. As we look at how we go and we implement an evacuation need, is you have to look at the steps necessary to give your family the best chance of surviving a wildfire, and that comes with time. We need time to put you in a safe location. You need to utilize that time to implement when we say that we have an evacuation need. So as you know, when we get into this action, when a wildfire hits, we want you to leave early. If you're in a warning, you don't have to stay there in a warning and wait until it's an order. What I would like to see is that you take the action. So just because you go to an order, don't chew up that time. You should have that preparedness already there. We want you to leave early. It's the best chance of your survival, because one thing we do not want to do is compromise your safety, because truthfully, you're dragging your feet or you feel that you're going to be inconvenienced. And we know it's going to be a significant inconvenience, but please, please, please put that time on your side, because when it's too late, your options become very limited. And so do your firefighters. Their options become very limited to go into a life safety or rescue mode when people had ample time to leave. So within the Santa Monica Mountains, we have emergency evacuation zones, and they're actually spread out through the county of Los Angeles. But in the Santa Monica Mountains, we were the first pilot for what was called Zone Haven. Now it's called Genesis, on how these zones work based upon how they're labeled, how they're named, the geographic boundaries with them based upon population traffic routes. So these will change colors, and this is not a notification system. This is an information system for you to understand. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to have Megan talk on this in just a second. The exercising this Genesis is a significant tool for you to understand what's going on in your area, because you may not always be home. You could be on vacation. So can you go to this Genesis platform to see what information is available? The answer is yes. And so with that, I'm going to let Megan Courier talk on Genesis and the zones. Megan, please.
Thanks, Chief Smith. As you just mentioned, I'm Megan Courier. I'm the Community Services Liaison for Division 7 of LA County Fire. And as Chief Smith also mentioned, emergency evacuation zones are a really important tool for public safety agencies. And specifically in LA County, a little background on the zones is that they were created because we needed a better way to communicate directly with residents during incidents. So then the LA County Office of Emergency Management, the Fire Department, and the Sheriff's Department worked together along with the communities and the cities throughout the county to create these zones. And the map you see on the screen shows all of the evacuation zones within the Santa Monica Mountains region. But there are also zones, as Chief Smith mentioned, throughout the county in all the other very high fire hazard severity zones. And eventually the goal is that there will be a continuous zone map across the entire LA County. And the zones can be used in a few different ways. They're useful to both public safety agencies and to the community members. because pre-designated evacuation zones allow the fire department and law enforcement to act much more quickly during an incident. So instead of having to create zones from scratch, they can use the pre-designated zones, and it makes things a lot quicker and easier. And on the community side, it benefits residents because they'll be able to see exactly what's happening in real time and know if there's any evacuation status changes in their zone. It basically puts everybody on the same page during evacuation. So this map shows the zones within Calabasas. This was created by the city. It's much more detailed with the streets, and it has the HOA borders within the zone maps. And I believe this can be found on the city website. So this is a good resource for you to have. Okay, and so now the platform itself. So LA County contracted with a company called Genesis, and they host our zone maps on their website. It's called Genesis Protect. And so the zone maps are updated in real time on the website, so residents have the most up-to-date information. Basically, to use it, you would go to the website, protect.genesis.com, and then enter your address into the search bar, and your zone will be highlighted as you see on the screen. CAL C406 is highlighted, and it shows you the status of the zone and any other pertinent information. So on the left, you can see the borders of the zone, community links, weather, all sorts of information about your specific zone. And then once you know what your zone is, you should write it down and put it somewhere where you will remember it. And then bookmark this website so you can go back in the future during an incident and see what is happening within your zone. And then during an incident, public safety agencies, we will on the back end update the status of the zone, and you can just go and check and you'll know exactly what's going on. And then it will also be sent out via an Alert LA notification and through the city of Calabasas's notification system. Another important thing is the app. So there's some different features on the app that are not available on the website. I think the main benefit is that once you download it, you can add zones to your saved locations. And then anytime that zone status is changed, it will send you a push notification on your phone. And you can save multiple different zones. So you can save work, home, your kid's school, and it will let you know as soon as something happens within one of those zones. And there's also a feature where if you let it track your location, if you go into an area that is under an order, it will also send you a push notification. And this slide shows some other ways that you can get information during an incident or before an incident. We briefly discussed Alert LA County, and then the city of Calabasas has their notification system. I believe it's through Blackboard Connect. But both of those you need to sign up for in order to receive notifications. They're opt-in systems, so they won't send anything unless you've signed up. So you should go on the website and sign up for those. And then there's also the Pulse Point app, which can alert you to any incidents happening within Division 7. Also, during a major incident, there is a lot of false information that's spread on the internet. So it's good to follow verified sources. So under the fall on social media, these are all like verified PIO accounts for the various agencies. And then it's also important to have a battery operated or hand crank radio so you can listen to AM radio, obviously local media stations, the no weather alert radios, which Chief Smith mentioned. Those are an important tool. And then somewhat new, but very important is lacounty.gov/emergency. And that is the Office of Emergency Management's site that will aggregate all of the emergency information during an incident. So all of the information that's available will be aggregated on that website. So that's an important one to keep bookmarked. And then to learn more about all of these different types of notifications, you can visit this site, ready.lacounty.gov/emergency notifications, because basically we want people to build redundancy in the type of alerts that they get, because obviously one system doesn't work for everyone, and one system's not going to work well everywhere. So we want you to build redundancy and follow multiple different information sources. So no matter what, you get the information one way or the other. And then I believe Debbie's going to talk about this in a little bit, but one way to get involved is through CERT training, stands for Community Emergency Response Team. And LA County Fire offers free CERT training. We've done many classes in Calabasas, and hopefully there will be more in the near future. Basically, we train residents in basic emergency skills, first aid, fire safety, basic search and rescue. And once you graduate the class and you complete the class, you have these skills to take back to your family or your neighbors or your workplace. And then you can also join the City of Calabasas CERT team, which Debbie will talk about. And they have a little bit more responsibility and opportunities to volunteer. So that's one of the main ways we encourage people to get involved. And I think that is it for me.
Perfect. Thank you, Megan. So appreciate everybody from your fire department. We're proud to serve you, the City of Calabasas, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Now we'd like to turn it over to Hattie Hammond from Los Angeles County Fire Department Forestry Division to give us a presentation on a very important topic for our community called Firewise USA. Hattie?
Hello all. Thank you, Mike. So my name is Hadi Hamoud. I work with the Forestry Division at LA County Fire. I'm in the Fire Plan Unit, and part of our responsibilities is to help the community and fire safe councils and set up Firewise communities. So since Chief Smith did a very good job talking about our Ready, Set, Go program, the way that Firewise USA relates to that is it falls within the Ready component. That way, when you guys do get set and you go during an evacuation, you have a little bit more peace of mind that your home will hopefully survive that wildfire. So today we're talking about resilience, and Firewise communities is a good way to make your entire community more resilient by having better home hardening and defensible space to make your property more safe and survivable from a wildfire. So what is a Firewise community? So I'd like to first start with the NFPA is a national program. It's the National Fire Protection Association, and they are the ones that created the Firewise Community USA. It's a national framework for communities within high fire risk areas to become more resilient to fire incidents in terms of the vegetation around their property and structures or features of your home structure itself that make it more prone to ignition from wildfire. So we look at both of those components and make recommendations to the community as a whole. What's great about Firewise community is that it's very much reliant on the residents in the community itself. It's a good tool to get organized as a community, watch each other's backs with the support of us at the fire department. But it's really on you guys to do the work with the recommendations that we can give you. And it relates to all things emergency. It's not just wildfire. Having a better sense of community and knowing your neighbors, knowing who to reach out to, who has the best information, who's the most aware is a good way that Firewise brings the community together. And in the City of Calabasas, you guys are in very good hands. You have great Fire Safe Council with Epic and Brian Cameron, and Firewise community component is something that is on a smaller scale to make your exact neighborhood a little bit more resilient to wildfire. Next slide, please. So the steps to becoming a Firewise community, there's about 3 steps. It's pretty straightforward. First, you guys have to get a little bit organized. You know, you need to have I would say a community board, a Firewise board to really launch that effort within your community. So we can only do so much on our end of things at the fire department. We are here to support the program and enhance your community resilience, but we do not live in your community. So we do need those board members that are there, the residents, to drive this effort. So we ask for about 3 to 5 people to lead this effort in order to have really good community building and connection in order to get things lifted. We usually look at HOAs first because low-hanging fruit HOAs already have an infrastructure and a way to kind of get the community together, and even sometimes landscaping standards. But it applies to any and all communities. It's just really dependent on the resident leaders of how big they want to make this. There is a size limit, and we don't like to have Firewise communities over around 600 homes in the state of California. And you can have, as low as, I believe it's 12 homes. So it's really dependent on what's realistic for your community and your community leaders, because we're looking at as much of a percentage of your community to take the steps that we're recommending to become more resilient to wildfire. So we want to have as high of a participation percentage as possible. So if anyone's familiar already with home hardening assessments, maybe they've had one done by one of the nonprofits local to your area. This is essentially an assessment of a home, but on the community scale. We're getting a general impression, essentially, of where is your community at with its fire resiliency. I usually am looking for, I want to see the least resilient part of the neighborhood. Give me an average and give me the most resilient. That way I can drive through and see the entire community and pinpoint a few homes to really look at all the elements of home hardening and defensible space in order to kind of assess and give a baseline. Now, what Firewise isn't is Firewise is not, you guys are not doing good enough. Firewise is, we're looking at where your baseline is and where are the room for improvement that we can do together. So it starts with organizing and then coming to us and scheduling an assessment. So like I was saying, you want to have your site boundaries. So HOAs already do that for you because HOAs have a site boundary, they have that board already. So you do need a map of your community because we want to see what's in that Firewise effort and what's outside of it. It's also based off the amount of homes and residents within the community. Those are two very important things. So finding that census data ahead of time is key to making the assessment when myself or Mike Dyer or Brian Cameron come out to your neighborhood and actually do the assessment. And like it says here, it can be a simple Google map just with a line drawn around clearly marked roads. That way we just know what's actually in and what's out and how many homes are in that. And the way that Firewise really assesses, are you doing a good job and doing what they say Firewise is? The way they track that is through the amount of hours you put into what Firewise breaks down as their criteria. So they go by defensible space areas and home hardening or structure areas. And there are a large list of criteria for each. And you can track all the volunteer hours that you're doing towards those items. Say you're doing more tree trimming around your home, you're cleaning up the leaf litter, or you maybe are installing and upgrading your soffit vent screenings out in your attic or your basement. You can count the time that it takes into your volunteer tracking hours, and that's how the NFPA, who runs this program, actually can give you a good standing review and keep your neighborhood as Firewise. So this last line here is you start your online application to become a Firewise community. Everything is virtual now, so that's the key component. I would say assign one of your board members to be the one that creates a portal account and a login and manages that. Keep it to 1 or 2 people. That way it's just kind of all set in place and assigned off to somebody. So community risk assessment. So since you guys are in the city of Calabasas, you have multiple options. You have Mike Dyer, the emergency manager. You have Brian Cameron, the Fire Safe Council president. Or you have us over at LA County Fire Forestry Division to come out and do a community risk assessment. So like I said, this is where we're coming to see those kind of middle of the road, worst off and best off as far as fire resiliency. And we're getting that general impression to give you a baseline and identify those areas that you should really prioritize and improving. It might be, you know, your defensible space area from 30 feet to 100 feet from the structure. Maybe that's what your community is suffering on. Maybe it's 0 to 5 feet of the structure. Maybe your community really likes vines that go over the awnings and pergolas. Unfortunately, we do have to balance aesthetic with practicality out in Southern California, especially with vegetation. And again, this isn't telling anyone not to do something, but we're informing people of how they could do something a little bit better. So the way that you do that is you contact these two emails down here, M. Dyer, City of Calabasas, or Brian at Epic FSC. And they will go ahead and coordinate with us at Forestry Division to come out and do that risk assessment. And we ask that at least a couple of the Firewise board members be there, because it's also a good education lesson. Because there's only so much I can speak on behalf of this at a virtual presentation. It's really learned by doing. And if the board members know exactly what we're looking at and why we're looking at those things, it's going to be really empowering for them to bring that information to their neighbors and their community to get more buy-in to this. So like Chief Smith was mentioning, home hardening. So what exactly is home hardening? So we can take this example of roofing material. And a lot of newer constructions from the mid-90s to current, they'll have what the state of California considers fire-resistant materials or Class A materials. So that's things like composite shingles, metal, or tile. And we're looking at roofing materials. We're looking at walls. We're looking at fencing. We want to see as least amount of combustible materials attached to the structure of the home as possible. And what we really stress, and it's actually the lowest hanging fruit of the home hardening itself, is soffit vents. So those screens that lead into your attic or your basement because you need airflow, they have a mesh screen, and often they're a 1/4 inch in diameter. And we know through the last 15 years of research that the most common cause of home ignitions and having houses actually get burnt down in wildfires is because embers will get into those attic spaces through those vents, because those screens are a little bit too wide in diameter, and then you cause ember intrusion. And that's really what sets more homes than not on fire, is from the inside out. So we look at that because it's actually a very cheap and easy to do option. It's part of the Firewise risk assessment. We're looking at those soffit vent screens. We want to get everything to an 1/8 inch in diameter or finer. So if you can see right here, it actually tells you the exact criterion that NFPA puts their risk assessment by. It's very specific. It goes by percentage. We want to see 50 to 75% of homes have blank Class A material. And maybe that's your general or your baseline is you have 50 to 75%. But after we do the risk assessment, the next step is doing an action plan. Maybe at the end of your 3-year action plan, you have 75% or greater of the homes within your community have upgraded to a finer mesh screen, just as an example. So like I said, the next step after doing your risk assessment is an action plan. Because we're getting the baseline and the risk assessment. And I'm also going to educate you as the resident leaders how to really devise an action plan, based off what we're looking at. How do you plan for the future, and how do you actually execute becoming or boosting your resiliency when it comes to wildfire? And like it says here, it's broken down by year. It identifies and prioritizes those things that you should do to make your community more resilient. And there is no minimum, I would say, that you need to do. It's all about what's realistic for your community. The fact that you're getting engaged, you're getting educated, and you're aiming to take steps to increase what you're already doing, which many communities are doing a great job actually in the Santa Mountains region. It's really about what's accessible to us and what can we get the most amount of residents within our community to actually do within 3 years from now. And with the mesh screening, let's say you want to do, you're at 50 to 75% on year one, but you want to upgrade to 75% by year 3. You can break that down into 10% per year of how many residents are actually going to a finer mesh screen. So on year 2, 60% of residents now have a finer mesh screen. And on year 3, 75% of residents now have a finer mesh screen. Through that assistance and that kind of education that the resident leaders can be very involved in disseminating. And once people understand the benefit of what you're suggesting, it's going to be a lot more digestible and there's going to be a lot more buy-in. So the annual requirements are just tracking. You need to just track that the amount of hours that you guys are putting into your landscaping, and maybe if you are doing some home hardening, how many hours it takes to install new screens into maybe 10 houses. And this is just the ballpark, and it's really just timekeeping, really, because the NFPA, they actually tie a dollar amount to the amount of hours of work, or for 1 hour of work that whatever it may be you're doing. And as you'll see in the portal, when you create a portal and you upload how many houses you have, it'll assign you a minimum amount of work to do for your community. And I'll already tell you, most of the communities in Santa Monica Mountains already exceed that because of the amount of landscaping that needs to be done all the time. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It may look scary at first, but we're here to help you. It may look scary just because you see an amount of cash that they want per year, but it's really just put in the amount of hours that you worked as a community, which is probably going to be more than 500 hours, depending on the size of your community. And then it'll actually show you how much that you need for that year or you don't need. And as long as you're keeping up that minimum annual requirement, you guys are going to remain Firewise. And then every 3 years, you will do a new action plan, right? Because a 3-year action plan is to upgrade our baseline from year 1. So once we've upgraded from our first baseline, let's get a new baseline and make a new action plan and continue our efforts. And I will say there is one other benefit. It's a potential benefit. I don't like to tout it too much because it's not guaranteed, but there is a possibility of saving some money with your insurance with Firewise. And that's another big thing that gets people interested. From anecdotes, what I've heard locally is anywhere from a 1% discount to a 15% discount. And again, that's not something that we at the fire department can guarantee or do anything for you. That's really up to your insurance rate adjuster, but it is a potential benefit. If you guys have any other questions at the end, I will stick around, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hattie. I wanted to turn it over to Brian Cameron from Epic Fire Safe Council for a few comments on Firewise, and also recognize the city's partnership with Epic in this endeavor. Brian, you need to unmute.
Unmute too and start my video. Okay, thank you. Yes, the Epic Fire Emergency Preparedness in Calabasas was created out of the ashes of the Woolsey fire. 3 years ago, 3 of us got together, myself, Norma Citron, and Joanne Suara, and contemplated what we could do to make Calabasas residents safer and the city a better and more resilient place to live. We took into consideration wildfire, also earthquakes and mudslides. And now, 3 years later, we have 15 to 20 very active volunteers. And we have created a number of outreach projections, because one of the things that we discovered right from the beginning was that the issue wasn't education. The issue wasn't a lack of information. The issue was that people didn't care a lot. So the first thing we had to do was break through that apathy barrier. We had to exist as an outreach organization, which is what we're continuing to do. And we're doing that through a couple of different ways. We have Epic Calabasas, which is a smartphone app, free to download, that contains all of the information you need to prepare for, deal with, and recover from an earthquake, wildfire, or other emergency. We created ECHO, Emergency Communications to Home Occupants, which was commented on earlier. It's a amateur radio-based communication platform that we are creating in partnership with the city, as almost all of the stuff that we're doing is in partnership with the city, that is designed to provide information to individuals at home directly from the Emergency Operations Center. One of the things we're really happy about and excited about right now, though, is that we're working on reimagining, recreating the Community Emergency Response Team program and the FireWise Council. FireWise Community program. FireWise communities are going to be very critical to our long-term existence even. We're going to be providing a lot of the support work for individual, not only HOAs, but also individual communities. Because we know on the west side of the city, there are fewer HOAs and more open areas. And we want to work with them as well. So that's something we're working on. We're doing home hardening. And it really is an important and powerful private-public partnership that we have that are working with the city. And if you have any questions about any of these things, visit our website. It's Epic. Our website is www.epicfsc.com, and just follow the links and you can see all the things that we're doing. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Brian. Also, I wanted to point our community members out to a new FireWise website called CalabasasFirewise.com. It's got some amazing information on it. And what we intend to do with FireWise is to help the communities out there go through this process. Hattie mentioned it. It seems daunting, but it's not. We're going to help with the application process, the risk assessment, the 3-year action plan, and also we've acquired a records management system that's going to allow the communities to help you keep track of the work you're doing in the future, so it makes the FireWise ongoing process much easier. So we look forward to working with everybody out there on FireWise. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Debbie Larson, who's going to talk about the Calabasas CERT team. Debbie?
Thank you, Mike. I'm Debbie Larson, and I'm the Public Safety Coordinator in the Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness Department for the city. Thank you for attending tonight, and I'm going to be talking about our Calabasas CERT program. And let me share my screen. There we go. What does CERT stand for? It's the Community Emergency Response Team. CERT is a group of volunteers under the direction of the city who have completed CERT training and teaches community members how to effectively respond in the event of a disaster until first responders arrive. And one thing, if you do have questions, you can put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Reorganization. We are excited to announce the reorganization of our Calabasas CERT program. We currently have a CERT communications team. The city formalized the program and are looking to expand our team. Your role, how will you be utilized? CERT volunteers may be utilized to maintain and staff emergency caches, help out at our city events, assist with vital EOC Emergency Operations Center functions, and enhance community preparedness. So we want you to come join our team. Please join us on the effort to become a member of Calabasas CERT. We do have 4 board member positions that we are trying to fill. One of them is a secretary and treasurer position. We have planning, outreach, and training. We have somebody who's gonna watch over the cash units. Those are the first aid cash units, and there's 6 around the city. They're located at Gates Canyon, Grape Arbor Park, Deanza Park, Bay Laurel Elementary, Tennyson Swim Center, and Calabasas High School. We already have a communications team, FRS, which is Family Radio Service team. So we're going to build upon the other ones. And over here on the right in yellow, I just put the organization of how the CERT program is going to operate in the city. Basically, it's under the city council, goes to the city manager. The CERT program manager is Michael Dyer, and CERT coordinator is myself. And then we'll have these 4 board members that are in charge of each of these positions. Whoops. We are planning on having a general CERT meeting in the fall of 2024. First, the city will be sending out a questionnaire to determine the number of interested residents. A general meeting will be scheduled following the results of the questionnaire. The basic requirements of being a CERT member in the city of Calabasas is you have to be a resident of Calabasas. You must have completed your CERT training. You have to be 18 years or older. You have to register as a disaster services worker. You have to pass a background check and wear the uniform provided. And there is paperwork, yes, that you must fill out because the job's not done until the paperwork's completed. The QR code on here will take you to our CERT website page. And this is the link also that you can click on to get to all the paperwork that you need to fill out. The first thing is that we will have an interview with you. We'd like to meet you at City Hall and submit all your paperwork that you worked on. We're going to have you obtain a background check at a separate location. And you may ask, why a background check? It's a requirement for safety, and we have a responsibility to consider this. CERT training. So why do the training? Basically, it's to prepare you to be as ready as you can to help yourself, your family, and your neighborhood. And what does the CERT training cover? Well, let's see. Why do the training? To be prepared. What does the training cover? There's several things, several areas that it covers. Manage utilities and put out small fires. Treat for immediate life-threatening signs. Provide basic first aid. Basic search and rescue. Organize to be effective at home and for the city. And to collect disaster intelligence to support the city EOC and first responder efforts. So CERT training. We are planning on having a CERT training soon, either in the fall or the spring. We have to determine how many people are really interested in becoming part of our CERT program. Both cities of Agoura Hills and the city of Malibu are planning to offer CERT in February. That's an in-person version. So I will put all that information on our website, and you can opt to either go there or you can come to ours. As long as you complete all 7 sessions of the CERT training, then you'll receive a certificate and then you are good to go with us. If you're interested, please contact me, Debbie Larson. It's dlarson@cityofcalabasas.com for more information. Thank you and look forward to expanding the Calabasas CERT program. And that's the conclusion of my PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you to all of our panelists. I'd like to open it up now to those folks that are watching. You can go into the Q&A portion of the Zoom and type in a question. And what I'd like to do, our panelists are still hanging around for any questions. If you have any for any of our panelists, please write a question and I'll read it off and have the panelist answer it. Okay. This is from anonymous attendee. I can't find Blackboard Connect on the city's website. Is it called Final Site now? Debbie?
Yes, it is. Blackboard Connect is no longer, and we have moved on to Final Site Protect. And all that information is on our website. It's one of the first things when you open up our website. So yes, they've changed hands.
And to add to that, Final Site Connect is so important for our community members to sign up, because that's the way when TV goes down, internet goes down, we can still message you through your phones. If you're registered, we could message you with very important information through Final Site Connect. Any more questions for any of our panel members? Please type them in, and I'll do my best to point them to the right panelist. Okay. Oh, here we go. From Francis Alette. No question, just wanted to say thanks for putting this together and participating in the panel. Thank you, Francis, appreciate it. Okay, here's a question from an anonymous attendee to Hattie. Does work done by landscapers or gardeners qualify for Firewise reporting? Hattie?
Yes. Yes. To answer that question, work done by landscapers does absolutely count. So the one exclusion with Firewise is they want you to go above your minimum brush code, your local ordinances. So a lot of people do go above that. So all that work that you're doing, maybe in even your HOA common spaces, can absolutely be counted towards those volunteer hours. And that's why I say a lot of the communities in Santa Monica Mountains region are already doing those hours to maintain that minimum requirement.
Agree. I've seen a few landscaping invoices and bills when we've been working on Firewise, and they do handle the open space, and they do qualify. Thanks, Hattie. Anybody else have any questions? I'm just giving it a second here to anybody. Okay. Well, oh, wait, I got one more. Anonymous attendee, why isn't prescribed burn a good idea for Calabasas? That Chief Smith, are you still around?
I am still around, sir. Yes, sir.
For our anonymous attendee, why isn't prescribed burn a good idea?
Well, prescribed burning does have an application like any land management that we have. So it is always an option, but we have to look if it's the right fit for the right piece of the landscape. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it is one of the things that we can do. And really, we look at 3 different methods. We can do the land mammals, which is the goats. We can do mechanical modification, and we can use prescribed fire. So those options are on the table. There's some significant challenges with all those components with different viewpoints within the Santa Monica Mountains, but that's something we could absolutely entertain with the city of Calabasas, with our subject matter expertise, to identify if it's the right fit and accomplish the right mission. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Any more questions? Vanessa Reed. Does an entire community need to participate for Firewise certification? Can a small group of homeowners, a single street community, be certified? Hattie?
Yes, yes. You don't need an entire, 250 home HOA. If you have a cul-de-sac of about 15 homes, even less than that. Don't quote me. I did say 12 earlier, but I do believe it's actually 7 homes is the minimum you need for NFPA's standard to actually create a Firewise community. So yes, absolutely. If you're not in an HOA and you know that it's realistic for your cul-de-sac, totally.
Great, thank you. I got an anonymous question that came to me via text. Is mulch a good idea for landscaping? Hattie?
I will not recommend mulch. Mulch does have benefits to your garden and the plants themselves, but mulch can actually become a large ember and can be a small creeping fire. So in places where you want to put mulch, you want to have some type of permeable material, but still to block out weeds. You can go with small gravel or small stones in lieu of mulch, and it'll give you most of the same benefits.
Thank you, Hattie. Any more questions? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mayor Weintraub and Councilmember Shapiro for getting on the webinar and for their words of support. And wanted to thank our distinguished panelists for providing some really, really good information for our community members. What we plan to do is to record this webinar as being recorded, and it's going to be on Calabasas TV and also on the City of Calabasas YouTube channel. So please let anybody know who didn't get a chance to see it tonight to view it. And from the City of Calabasas, Los Angeles County Fire Department, we'd like to thank you for attending and be safe this fall. And happy holidays to everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.